Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Welcome to World Inkers Network. As I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. Great to have the show today. It's been a while, but we're back on the air. And today we have Roula Pollard. Sorry, the bio just disappeared on me. Let me pull up it again. Roula Pollard is a Greek poet and writer, educationalist, essayist, translator, and literary promoter born on the island of Santorini. She studied history and archaeology at Athens University and attained an MA in classics at Leeds University. She lived in England for 25 years and taught modern Greek language and civilization at Wakefield District College and other colleges. As a poet of the Greek diaspora, she writes in English and Greek and has participated in numerous international and Greek poetry festivals. Welcome to the show, Roula. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, and I'm looking forward to this interview. And it is a few friends of mine who were interviewed by you. For example, George Onsi from Egypt, who is my friend, and also Yotimaya Thakur from India, who lives in England. So I really feel that I am in a homely environment. Having so
wonderful. So I look forward to talking with you, and we'll talk a little bit about your poetry, and especially interested in how the environment, your environmental concerns sort of collaborate within your poetry. I noticed there's a lot of, I guess you could call it earthy images, images of place, and so forth in your poetry. And you're also an environmental activist, if I remember. You're very much pro in favor of preserving nature and preserving, the environment. So how does those two things intersect in your work?
Well, the environment is a very key point, issue in my poetry, especially during the last 10 to 15 years. I have been environmental activist for 40 years, especially in England, where I undertook many and big campaigns to save the environment. Actually, if I knew the seriousness and the complexity of the projects I undertook, I would have never taken them. But I was very lucky that the people I was working with, they support me very much. And also, not only the people with who I cooperated with, from the villages, from the cities, or from the counties, but also people from high up in the government show me the great support. For example, the key officer for the environment at the county where I lived was talking with me, and I explained to him that we need a pollution measuring station so that we can have the results available for all the citizens in our area. And he said, oh, well, it's so easy. I have a pollution measuring station in the basement of the council. So it was as easy as that. And since then, the pollution results were, the pollutants were made available for a population of 250,000 people. That marked my life quite a lot, and actually my people at home saw me very little. I was out and around meeting people and making things happen, not just in words, but in action. It was one of the very interesting times of my life.
Wonderful. It's curious to me, like, you mentioned, like, a lot of environmental things in your poetry, and I just noticed that was an intersection there. So how do you think poetry can communicate the urgency of environmental concerns?
One should just see what is happening from the very simple things. For example, let's see what food. We all know that our food is highly polluted. We all know that the air is very polluted. We all know that people get ill because of the pollutants in the air. We all know that petrol and the fume from the exhaust are very, very bad for our health. We all know that if we don't do the right things about even washing our food is very bad for us. So from the simple things, even if we have no further knowledge, it is very essential to attend these matters. Now, communicating this to poetry is really very easy, because I think poetry is about our life, is about our thoughts, is about our how to live, is about how to think, is about how to even to breathe. Poetry contains everything in life, and therefore the more we incorporate them in poetry, the easier it becomes. Now, I believe that in our days, and for many years now, we don't write poetry just to write poetry. It is not art for the art. It is art. It is fighting for our rights and for our lives through the art. In other words, it is a word called machitiki, something like war poetry. We are not going to the war, but we're fighting through poetry for our lives.
And I agree. It's something that poetry, a lot of people don't see it as something that can be communicative of important issues. A lot of people see it as kind of flowery language and things like that. So it's interesting, especially in this urgent period of human history. I think, we're facing a lot of crises, and it's good that we have mediums to communicate. And poetry's, I know, at least in the States here, it's become much more popular than in the last few years than previous generations have seen it. So how people in Athens, how do they view poetry these days?
Well, people still are used to like to read, the majority of the people like to read poetry which is written in a conventional style. But in Athens, it has always been that a few people, a few open-minded people change both the language of the poetry is written, and also the matters, the subjects on which poetry is dealing with. And obviously these poets have not huge audiences, but what is important is not the number of people they read, but it is the quality of an influence that this poetry has to our life, to individuals' life, and it takes time for these people to be for these poets to be established. But at the end, what is important is the message. For example, if we take poets like Kavafis or even Odysseus Elitis, the Greek poet who wrote the 1979 poet Nobel Prize winners. At the beginning, he was really, he was not accepted at all, but he was about 50 years old when his first books were accepted by the public. That means it's not that his poetry was not top poetry, but it was the people who could not follow him. Also, I like to remember that not only poets, but also other artists. Let's remember Henry Moore. He was 53 years old when he attended the Venice Biennale, and he was recognized for the first time in his life. Henry Moore was a breakthrough sculptor, but he did not, he was not accepted at all. If you imagine that he made a revolution. So in poetry, one either has to be become known by a wider public, or has to break through new grounds and new ideas. As for me, really, the flowery language and the nice ideas and the sweet and soft ideas are not my poetry. I am a poet who would like to tread on new grounds and create them through life, not through theory, but through my own experience.
That's an interesting aesthetic, and I think a lot of people we've interviewed have also followed similar, styles and approaches to poetry. It's more based, it's like root level experience rather than so we're pie in the sky ideas. Or I like to write both ways. I bounce back and forth. I write a lot of love poetry as well. That's my thing. So, can you tell us a little bit about Athens and the history there, and like what is the importance of Athens to the Western culture?
Well, it happens that Athens flourished in the 5th century BC. In antiquity, as in Greece, every city was a country, not a country, every city was a kingdom. They had kings in those days. But after the institution of the king was weakening, a new kernel of democracy, for the first time, it was established in Athens. For example, people built a tiny theater, which was probably even 50 seats, and they were having an assembly, public assembly, where all the views of the people would be heard in public, and a democratic decision would be taken. Now, that happened in Greece, on the island of Limnos, 1,400 years BC. When gradually democracy was established in Athens, and Athens was the first democratic city and a nation in Greece and in the world, the Athenians were really very clever, and they became New York of our days. They had many allies because they wanted to keep peace and they had a common Ministry of Finance, where all the islands and the cities in Greece were putting down their contribution towards peace. Now, that money in today's currency in euros is worth of 35 billion euros. So if we imagine that in the 5th century BC, this huge amount of money was was looked after by the Athenians, it gave me enormous strength. It gave them the strength to build in the center of Athens the most sacred monument of antiquity, the Parthenon. And the fact that they built a new temple for the goddess of Athene enabled them to decorate the temple with the most outstanding architectural monuments that the human civilization has ever constructed. Now, in order to build a huge and very modern and for their time temple, and it means also that the people have festivals. Now, the festivals that they had in ancient Athens was theater. It's the first time in the world to cultivate theater and to bring it through after 8 centuries of practicing theater from a very, very basic area into the theaters which in ancient Athens were or had 5,000 people seats. But if a country has if the citizens of a country have affluent and they like to talk, especially in ancient Athens when the weather was really very, very good, much better than it is today, people would congregate and attend the talks of the philosophers. So at the same time, when the flourishing of philosophy, of theater, of architecture, of democracy, everything coincided at the same time. The great books were written. The great tragedies by the 3 tragedians, Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides were written. Now, the theater, to go to the theater, 5,000 people at the same time, it was a big school. A play was not just to go there and laugh, but it was going to the theater to be educated, to hear about the criticism or about the politicians, about the wars undertaken. So it was a public school. It was also the public opinions was taken into consideration. So the views of all people were heard. And that's what is important, to have people, not just a few and the rich heard, but to have all the people, as many views as possible. This is a true democracy. So this is how democracy was born in ancient Athens in the 5th century BC.
Wonderful. We're going to take a brief break and we'll be right back with some of your work. And we're going to listen to some music here. So take it easy, guys out there viewing. Enjoy this little break.
for humanity.
World Inkers Monthly magazine is a fine source for your literary interests. It's an all-source magazine with poetry, prose, and essays and articles, as well as interviews. It's all full-color art and photography from a variety of voices and artists. You will find this magazine entertaining. This is an all-purpose readership, and we are looking for new voices. This sleek, full-color edition of World Inkers Monthly magazine will be something pleasant for your eyes as well as for your mind. And we're looking for authors for one book promotion in the magazine. If you're a business, we want to promote your business. You may submit your book reviews, your academic or non-academic articles on the humanities and the arts, as well as your literary writing and creative output to publication.worldinkers@gmail.com. World Inkers Monthly magazine does not spare any ink. Keep inking for World Inkers Monthly magazine. Welcome back to the show, audience, and it was wonderful to have you guys. Remember, you can invite some questions and so forth on our show. So without further ado, let's hear some of Roula's work, her wonderful poetics, and take charge. Thank you for being on the show today, Roula.
Thank you very much for having me.
So if you would like to read a couple of poems for us.
Sure. The title of this poem is Women Keep Love and Peace Alive. Today, tomorrow, always, in all seasons, decades, centuries, even in the darkest of times, women increase their love, keep it strong to lift the world out of its misery. Today, tomorrow, always, our love multiplies with affection, active love, protective, sincere, passionate, and blessed. Our love's fulfillment creates good to heal us and the world, to heal our wounded planet. Alert, day and night, on a motorway of patience and determination. Alert to nurture our children's lives with love, to feed our husbands' confidence. Support our children, mothers, fathers, with love in our heart and in our minds. We plant daily in the earth of our hearts prayers for world peace. We kneel on the earth we spray with our tears, love and thankfulness. The universe absorbs our joy and tears. Our prayers fill the cosmos with love. O God, hear all mothers, wives, daughters, hear our prayers for peace. Stop the wars. Let goodness grow in us, O God. Today, tomorrow, always, I stand against all aggression, wars, nuclear and conventional. We women stand against oppression, drugs and their lords. We stand against the abuses of children, media poison. We stand against intimidation, against evil. Today, tomorrow, always, I pray for forgiveness, compassion, world peace, and true love. Thank you very much.
It's very beautiful, and I like the sentiments you express. I think it's very true, and definitely appreciate women and their sacrifices for the world, and you bring that to light quite well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for appreciating it. Now, I will read you the next poem. It's about Syrian war refugees. I had very strong experience with the war refugees in Athens because one reason was that they lived in a disused airport, which was 10 minutes away from where I live. And every time I would drive or I would take the tram, I would see many thousands of them on the pavements, sleeping on the pavements in the hot summer days and nights. And it was, my heart was really broken. The title of the poem is A War Refugee Mother. How much should my children remember? Memory has her own home. Do I live in a non-habitable memory land? I did have a land of memory of me and my childhood, my parents, the lakes and rivers of our land. Now, many rivers run out of water. Oh, do you truly want to know? Blood and ruins. Ruins of history from darkness of inconceivable and inexplicable acts. Where am I now? I am an orphan child of the world, carrying lost feelings in plastic bags, empty feelings, carrying and rushing my children, my food, my feet to my new land of hope in search of memory. My children, I want you to forget the frozen floors of your tender childhood. Remember the beach and the palm trees of this Athenian coast. Remember ice cream running down your knees. Remember playing football barefoot. Remember your mom like a flower. These memories are enough for you. And when you fall asleep, forget the color of blood. Try only to remember the rain running down through the holes on the top of our tent. Remember the path of hope, dreams like the lane that runs along the tram tracks. In a blossoming afternoon, full of spring flowers of hope. Thank you very much.
Wow, beautiful. And the line that stood out to me was "Forget the color of blood," and then you talk about the rain and that right after that following that line, and it, that really is a very touching line. And I think that it's very important. What you say in there is how we can move forward and progress as a species and as a civilization, and move into hopeful days rather than being entrenched in the violence and the mayhem that we're experiencing. Wonderful message of hope and beauty. Thank you so much. If you'd like to read another one, we can do that.
Sure. This poem is about the war in Ukraine. I wrote a number of poems, and I'm sure this horrible experience in our neighborhood in this part of the world, it will be the reason to write a lot more and create memories which hopefully will make us think that we should never experience war. The title of the poem is Ukraine's Children. How can you explain to 5-year-old children that their country has been invaded by an evil tyrant, a lunatic, a megalomaniac? How can you tell them that Russian armies surround Mariupol and Kiev? Mommy, what is a megalomaniac? Is it an oligarch? How can you explain to 5-year-old children that their home has been left behind with grandma and now they are in Poland? Perhaps they have left home forever in the middle of winter, in the middle of the night, to avoid being killed, left uncounted in the war, darker than night. How can you explain to a 5-year-old that his mother fights at the front? Perhaps he may never see her again, considering the heavy Russian armament and the cruel cluster bombs. What is it like for a child to lose his mother at the front? How can you explain to a 5-year-old that his father too fights in Kiev, defying the Russian army? How much blood and killing does the child understand? What is the price of pain? How can you explain to a 5-year-old child from Russia who weeps for his father, starving for lack of food, freezing for lack of oil in Mariupol and Kiev, hoping he will see his son again? Before his brutal bombardment destroys his soul, war is the darkest of words, the actions of cowards who do not respect life and human rights. They defy life with a barbarity where humanity has lost its meaning and destiny. Thank you very much.
Wow, I especially love those last lines, lost meaning and destiny. I think that's very true in war and conflict and the what we're facing as a civilization today. It's a lot of hopelessness and feelings of meaninglessness in life, and I think that brings to life the heart of the issue and those last lines where we seem to have kind of gone astray from the idea that there is a meaning to life. In a lot of ways we've given up on that search, and I think that's a wonderful way of framing that question of war and conflict in Ukraine. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Actually, now we are questioning, I question myself, where do we start from? I mean, if so much evil has piled up on evil and on evil and on evil, how can we make a new start?
Right.
Because it's not in a war, nobody is a winner. They both opposition people have been acting on evil. And how do young children, young people, how do we expect to cope? All people of all ages, especially, I mean, besides the casualties, it is a matter of how can average household people, how can they put up with these expenses? It's huge. The expenses are huge because of the increase of price of fuel. So now we experience a new type of war, and we don't realize that how can they rebuild all these destroyed buildings and cities and villages and infrastructure, and also how and after how long shall we rebuild our life, because the most basic of all goods, the energy, has to be has to be rebuilt along new ways which we never have experienced before.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we definitely will have an opportunity to kind of revise our civilization and think outside the box quite a bit to move forward. What advice would you give to fellow writers, and what would you say to our viewers in conclusion of the show?
I would say, please search out for poetry, because poetry is the most peaceful means in our in our civilization to drive us, to give us ways to get out of this prejudice world where we live. It will give you clear ideas. It will give you idealism. It will give you love for humanity. And that is the basis for you to build your own love for humanity and avoid in every way you can war, humilities.
believe we had a network issue.
Yes, and action.
There we go. I can hear you. I lost you for a second there, but I caught you at the end there. So would you like to give any, say any thank yous or anything from your supporters and friends and family, or give any shout outs to people out there?
Sure. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very grateful. And thank you, Dusty, for interviewing me. It has been a great pleasure. And also, I thank all my readers who, for many years, I would say for more than 40 years, have been supporting me and telling me that what I have been doing to devote my life to poetry is worth doing, because without your support, I would have not been here. Thank you very much. Because of you, we stand together today to hear something which is against politics as we know them now, and to ask our politicians to change their minds, to change their courses, and to change the course of history towards a better life, towards a better society, towards a better ideas and civilization. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Roula, for joining us on the program today. And if you know of anybody else who'd like to be interviewed, and send them our way, we'd be more than happy to have them on the show. And remember out there, our audience, we need your financial support. You can get in touch with us on that matter at paypal.me/nyparrot. That's paypal.me/nyparrot. All donations are acceptable, as much as $5, $50, whatever you can spare to help keep this program alive and well and moving forward and advancing and continuing this wonderful work we're doing with the arts. So we love your assistance. And remember also, if you don't want to donate, you can purchase some of our various things we've produced, our anthologies, such as Parrot, the Literary Parrot, Volumes 1 and 2, or you can also buy World Inkers Monthly magazine. The first edition was just put on the market last month, and we're going to have the March edition coming out soon. It's our special devotion to women and women's socioeconomic and cultural status and the importance of those things. That will be in the March edition coming out very soon. So please to keep a lookout for that and buy a copy if you would like. It'll be black and white print this time around, so it should not be as costly as the previous edition. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and I will announce that when that comes out. And you can be on the show yourself if you want to support us that way. You can get in touch with me, Dustin Pickering, at literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. That's literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. I would be more than happy to answer any questions there. If you have any concerning the program, what you can expect from us, and so forth. And another thing you can do is you can subscribe, like, share, and comment on our materials as the show is going on, and that'll give us some feelings of solidarity and so forth. And we would love to hear from you guys out there watching the show. If you would like to make some comments or even share the content, and subscribe to our YouTube, as well as follow on Facebook, follow World Inkers Network and Parrot TV, New York Parrot. Follow those pages on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks for watching the program today. And again, thank you, Roula, for being on the program. We really appreciate all the efforts going on out there to promote the literature of hope and voicing our grievances and need for change in society. So without further ado, you guys out there, do some reading and get to writing. Love you guys. Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer. This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you.
Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the